No. And welcome to everyone. Thank you for coming. I know it was kind of short notice, but do appreciate all of you being here. This was somewhat of a collective effort, and so I won't take too much time presenting you to some of the people here, but we do have our honorary council, we also have the Professor Ricardo Vasconcelos. You need to learn Portuguese, or if your kids are going to college and choosing, that's a great place to go.
That's
right.
But we are trying to get more students in the space. We want students who are Portuguese. They can be from Portuguese, Brazilian, Mexican, Filipino heritage. We want you there, and we really would like to serve the Portuguese community, Portuguese American community. So if you have son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter, someone you know that actually has an interest but is wondering if it's for them, just send them my way and we'll talk to them. Okay, thank you.
Now, this was a community effort, and many of our organizations here in Point Loma, unfortunately some of the people couldn't make it today, but what I would like to do is, because we have different organizations, I would like the representatives of those organizations to please stand up. So, you know who you are? Okay, so representing the Portuguese Historical Center, here you go. Representing UPSCS Hall. We have the Society of Nossa Senhora de Fátima. Forgive me if I missed anyone. Last but not least, let's have the Santa Maria Board, or anyone when Ricardo called me about this presentation, you know, and he said, maybe we can have a Madeira organization. When I took it to the board, everyone was overwhelmingly pleased to help in any way. So I thank you, each and everyone, and I thank everyone who brought food and to share here with that. So,
Can I make one announcement?
Go ahead.
I just want to make one announcement that the San Diego State is hosting a conference. It's on September 26, 27, and 28, titled Cabrillo and Beyond, Portuguese Navigators in Alta California and the Pacific. I'm sure everyone, of course, I know everyone, of course, here knows the history and the story around the figure of Cabrillo. Recently, an article was published that I think proves almost beyond any doubt that Cabrillo is indeed a Portuguese navigator. And out of scientific scruple, and we felt like this would be a good opportunity to actually get scholars from that are scholars in history, scholars on Spanish history as well as Spanish navigation history, and a number of other scholars come here on those days and present on this topic, so that once and for all, hopefully, there is a very clear presentation about, or presentation of different ideas about this topic to clarify this once and for all, as I said, and I'm sorry I'm repeating myself. But I already invite you to at least put in your schedules there that 26, 27, 28 September we'll have a conference that will be a day and a half on campus. We'll have, I believe, a dinner here in the Portuguese Hall on the 27th, and the 28th we have a number of activities that will be in different parts of San Diego. Inalmiro is working very arduous on that, as well as I am, and a colleague from the author of the article that I mentioned, Paulo Afonso, an astronomer actually, lives upstate and produced a remarkable amount of evidence that we really needed to, everyone needed for it to come out so that we know. So I don't want to take more time with this, but please put that in your schedule. We count on your presence, and it will be really important to have your presence there, and to count on your support as well for this event. Yes, thank you.
It's extremely important that if we have this documentation on Cabrillo, that eventually we get this situation straightened out in San Diego.
That's the goal of the conference.
With all the publications and so forth saying that he's Spanish. I'm sure that
some things I can fix, others we can't, but we want to get the ball rolling so that things become evident.
Part of the people that you're having with the conference, does that include Wendy Kramer?
We invited her.
Did she answer?
She hasn't answered. We invited her. We've been arduously trying to invite her. But I would say you'll find we are about to put up the site. We are about to put up the website with the program of the conference. And soon enough, we'll be sharing in different communities. I'm pretty sure that before the festa, everything will be out in terms of scheduling for you guys to be able to access that information. Okay? So with no more delays. Nothing, anything I'm missing?
No, I just want to add that this is really important to our community, not just community here in San Diego, but the Portuguese community of the West Coast or even the United States. And Paulo Afonso, I mean, he's gotten to everyone's ears, including mine and Ricardo's, because he's so adamant about what he has found. And it's up to this community to take leadership and pronounce yourselves. And I would behind it, you know, just remember that a few months ago, Scott Peterson's office contacted me because the Spanish wanted to take the statues out. I mean, things have gotten to that side of things. So it's time for the community to get together. We're in the midst of putting the website together. We'll have information for the fest, and we'll coordinate with, obviously, the hall, the commission.
And if you have doubts, this article came out in the bulletin of the Spanish studies, which is
it was academically approved for sure.
Yeah, it's peer-reviewed research. It was approved by a journal on Portuguese and Spanish history, so it's academic, scientific knowledge published out. It's not some wishy-washy thing. In fact, there are 3 papers that, when we bundle them together, they're a book, really. And I'm hoping that will come out as a book as well. So, sorry.
So now, for what we came for. I would like to introduce you to all to Doutora Ana Salgueiro. She does not like being called Doutora, so this is Anna. Interesting, Anna lives in Madeira. She's not from Madeira. She was born in a little place in mainland called Alcobaça. And many of you know of Alcobaça because of all the pottery and things, so we were very familiar with that. But Anna fell in love with Madeira, Madeirense. And then she went, so they went to live in Madeira, and that's where she's been for the 20 plus years. So Anna, and like I said, she's a professor and she taught at the University of Madeira, but right now she actually does a lot of research and investigation on the curso. O que faz agora?
Yes, I'm at Centro de Estudos de História do Atlântico, and I'm working on cinema from Madeira history, the history of cinema from Madeira.
Exato, Centro de Estudos da Madeira, do Atlântico, which includes Madeira, Azores, and mainland Portugal. Does it include
Africa and America.
So this is something interesting for all of us, and I hope you enjoy it. And not wanting to take any more time, welcome, and let's go for it.
Good evening to all of you, and I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm very thankful for all of this organization. I have to apologize because my English is not as good as it should be, so I write my text, and I hope you have the patience to follow my presentation. Well, this is my first slide, and I will start. I renamed my presentation. This is the title that I chose. American Re-Encounter with the Portuguese Cinema produced in Madeira in 1920s. To escolher do Ovelha do Povo da Serra and O Fauno das Montanhas by Manuel Luís Vieira. Well, Manuel Luís Vieira is one of the, for me, it's one of the most interesting Portuguese directors from the period silent cinema, still very unknown, and born in the little town of São Vicente, probably some of you know, at Madeira Island, in 1885. Before, yes, I will talk about the history of the history of the producers. Yes, he was one of the directors of the two first producers. The first two producers in Madeira. And I will start reading my paper because it's better. Okay, I'm fine. In May 1897, Funchal held the first commercial movie screening. In Paris, Brothers Lumière had debuted commercially their cinematograph only 1.5 years before, in December 1895. And in Lisbon, the Lumiere's apparatus will be shown also for the first time in less than a year in June 1896. Being seen as a modern cultural phenomenon, cinema was received with enthusiasm by the island communities as a proof that Madeira was keeping up with the newest technological and cultural novelties of the European metropolis, and for that reason, it assumed a particular interest in the tourist industry that was driving on the island. Film exhibitions was immediately included in the cultural entertainment programs of Funchal for both tourists and residents. On the other hand, it was soon noted that cinema, like it was happening in many other foreign tourist resorts, could be a useful advertising device for Madeira Island due to the photogenic landscape of the island, and since the mid-19th century was also used in that sense through both photography and illustrated postcards, which were marketed on the island and widely spread in international tourist routes. Therefore, according to some people, cinema and mainly tourism were sign of a promising new era on the island, a time characterized by economic recovery and cosmopolitan modernization that both activities seem to symbolize. Thus, the 19th century would be over, in which Madeira Island, a small Atlantic island always dependent on the connections with the outside world, had undergone multiple crises which were particularly serious for the population that lived in more precarious living conditions. Among other problems that affected the island during the 19th century, there are some that might explain not only the continuous emigration phenomenon from the island to the American continent, but also the emergence of the first cinema producers on Madeira Island in the 20s, and its crucial connection to the Portuguese American colonies and Portuguese Brazilian colonies. These are matters that we want here to relate. In fact, if I'm being too boredom, is like that? Boring, please tell me and I finish. Among other problems that affected the island during the 19th century, there are some that might, I'm lost. In fact, if cinema, since its origin, constitutes a phenomenon of social entertainment, that does not invalidate that it has also been a cultural and technological phenomenon strongly implicated in economic and political dynamics, not always explicitly assumed. If cinema is always the result of the context in which it appears, the truth is that in the most distinct contexts, it has been a powerful tool of modeling and transforming societies in which it is produced and exhibited. And, as a matter of fact, a clear evidence of that is the emergence of the first cinema producers on the island, in close relation to not only the Portuguese colonies in the United States of America and Brazil, but also the Azores. In the 19th century, ongoing state of crisis on Madeira, an island with an ancestral migrant habit, which was evident since the first settlement of the archipelago in the 15th century, by settlers coming from multiple origins and not only Portuguese, found in emigration, both legal and illegal, a possible answer to the endless problems affecting the population. Brazil, the Madeira, United States of America, and Hawaii became thus hosting lands for important Portuguese descendant communities with strong affective and cultural connections to Madeira Island and the Azores too. Another Portuguese archipelago whose emigrant flow in the 19th century often accompanied the that of Madeira Island. Certainly, many of you are aware of all of this and know that the hope in the new century, 20th century, and the technological modernization that, as I mentioned before, animated some Madeirans in the transition to the 20th century, would quickly be dashed not only in Madeira, but in Portugal and in the world. In the Portuguese and Madeiran cases, the first quarter of the 20th century witnessed an intensification of the social and economic problems inherited from the 19th century, and for which the new republic founded in 1910 had no solutions. On the contrary, the general crisis will be aggravated by the growing instability and conflict both nationally and internationally. In 1914, the Great War broke out in Europe, and in March 1916, Berlin declared war on Lisbon. From then on, Portugal officially entered the war conflict, in addition to the violent destruction of the European and African regions that were battlefields and the thousands of dead and wounded caused by the fighting. The Great War, the first one, also affected the transatlantic routes and international tourism, on which Madeira at this time was highly dependent. Ships and ports, such as Funchal port, were vulnerable targets for attack. were vulnerable targets for attack. In fact, these circumstances have had a dramatic impact on Madeira. The island's misery and feeling of isolation and vulnerability worsened day by day, especially after Funchal was attacked by German submarines, which is there, in December 1916 and a year later in December 1917. And the city didn't meet the military conditions for effective defense. In this context, demands of the Madeirans to the Central Republican power intensified, demanding urgent answers to the very serious situations experienced on the island. Faced with an enormous governmental instability fueled by conflicts between Republicans and monarchists, as well as between the various Republican factions, the governments of the First Portuguese Republic were slow to respond effectively to the Madeiran emergency, creating a feeling of abandonment among the population that contributed decisively to the enlargement and consolidation of the island autonomist movement. Already manifested since the beginning of the 19th century, this movement, this autonomist movement, has resurfaced in the last decades of the 19th century, both in Madeira and in the Azores, gaining greater strength in the first 2 decades of the 20th century, against an excessively centralist state in governmental bewilderment. Madeirans and Azores, both Republicans and monarchists, demanded the right to their own government for their islands, which were too far from Lisbon and therefore too forgotten by the governments and political decision makers of the First Portuguese Republic. In addition to direct political action with the central power, the insular autonomist movements fostered and were accompanied by cultural dynamics aimed at the rediscovery of the history and heritage of the archipelagos, both Madeiran and Azores. To the Republic's lack of interest in the evaluation of these Portuguese Atlantic islands and their many problems, the islanders responded with initiatives that aimed to stimulate community cohesion, imagining and projecting each of the regions through literature, visual arts, music, popular culture, commemoration, and also photography and cinema as anthropological, social, and historical realities which were endowed with a uniqueness and an autonomous quality that was distinct from the rest of Portugal. Historical, cultural, and also natural realities whose value and singularities deserved internal and external re-acknowledgement. The struggle for survival in Madeira and also in the Azores was thus allied to a rhetoric of regionalist exaltation, which contributed significantly to the sublimation of a long history of crises, abuses, and difficulties, as well as to the re-elaboration of Madeiran and Azorean identity narratives, which fed regional pride, without forgetting the long migratory tradition that had woven their histories, and without excluding from their identity maps the numerous communities of Portuguese descent scattered around the world, where the effective and cultural heritage of the islands was felt. In this regard, it is important to note that in the period between world wars, these Portuguese descendants communities also claimed greater attention and support from the Portuguese Republic. These complaints are somewhat similar to those of the Atlantic Islands and likewise have rarely been answered. Needless to say, economic, social, and political transformation and crisis experienced in the United States at the time also affected the Portuguese immigrants and their families. And besides the problems arising from the unfavorable American conjuncture, there was another one, the risk of the of disintegration of the Portuguese colonies in America. Rui Correia, a Portuguese researcher, published recently a study in which he dealt with A Alvorada, a newspaper from New Bedford that was renamed Diário de Notícias from 1927 onwards, and that was bought in 1919 by the Azorian businessman Guilherme Machado Luís and was directed by the Madeiran António Vieira Freitas between 1919 and 1940. Rui Correia demonstrates the importance that these and other Portuguese newspapers had in the United States as agents of cultural cohesion of the New Bedford community, getting involved in causes dear to Portuguese Americans, such as associativism and the defense of the Portuguese language and culture, often seeking to strengthen the relationship with other Portuguese communities in America and with Portugal and Brazil. Based on the analysis of the New Bedford Portuguese newspaper, Rui Correia says that the decadent panorama of the Portuguese press between the 20s and the 30s was evident, and he added, in this, it is common to find information about the closure of Portuguese language publication in the New England region, and this state of notorious loneliness felt by the promoters of the Portuguese press is not limited to this region. We know of many examples that illustrate such a situation on the west coast of the United States of America. As early as May 1919, the disappearance of the weekly newspaper, A Seta, that was published in Hawaii, was commented in the Alvorada. Depending exclusively on the support of the Portuguese community provides, the lament of its promoters goes so far as to openly confess that the Portuguese community in Hawaii does not want Portuguese newspapers. Merchants do not advertise in Portuguese, the elderly for the most part can't read, and young people do not want to learn the Portuguese language. According to Correia, Alvorada was the most important Portuguese-American newspaper in the 20th century, not only for its daily publication, but also for its extraordinary longevity from 1919 to 1973, and for having managed to set up a network of correspondence and distribution posts that stretched from the American East Coast to the Pacific, without forgetting the connection to Portugal, namely the Azores, Madeira, and Cape Verde, and Brazil. And in this sense, it seems important to note that the attentive coverage that this newspaper made of the exhibitions in the United States of Portuguese films shot in Madeira and in the Azores during the 20s. These were films that mainly represented the two archipelagos, scenic beauties, habits, traditions, important dates and events. And most of them were produced by the two Madeiran film companies, Madeira Film and Empresa Cinematográfica Atlântica. Madeira Film, whose cinematographic repertoire now lost, unfortunately, consisted of documentary and propaganda movies, as well as newsreel films that reported the most relevant events and took place in the archipelago. Was founded in 1922 by Francisco Bento Gouveia, here you have this photo, who was born in July 1874 in Ponta Delgada, not the Azorian one, but the Madeiran one, and died in Lisbon in December 1956. Bento Gouveia was a convinced regionalist who was also linked to journalism and with the wine industry. His investment in cinema must be understood precisely in the context of his journalistic interests the need for national and international promotion of Madeiran products, and, above all, in the context of the autonomous struggle, the regionalist spirit, which had a strong expression in the 20s. A struggle strongly leveraged by the celebration of the so-called 5th centenary of the discovery of Madeira. You have there a photo from the parade. A 5th centenary exuberantly celebrated at the end of 1922 and in the first weeks of 1923. It is no coincidence that the first public screenings of the cinema produced by Madeira Film took place in December 1922 and were part of the program of the celebrations of the 5th centenary, as I said. In addition, it was up to Madeira Film to produce a long cinematographic report of these celebrations, often shown in Funchal and Lisbon, and which circulated in the United States among the Portuguese American communities in April 1924. In fact, Bento Gouveia was clearly aware of the potential of cinema. Clearly aware of the potential of cinema, publicly disclosing what he intended to accomplish with this Madeira film. And I quote, to make Madeira better known, advertising it, publicizing the ravishing beauty of its landscape, the picturesqueness of its customs, and its charm as a winter tourist resort, and the one with the greatest effective connections, with the greatest proximity between the Madeirans, and we could add the Azorians too, who voluntarily exile themselves in search of wealth throughout the world and the land of wonder in which they were born. And in fact, the genres produced by Madeira Film between 1922 and 1925 fulfilled Bento Gouveia's double purpose precisely because they showed Madeira creating the effect of reality, that is, creating the illusion that the projected images were faithful, transparent, and true reproduction of Madeira and also the Azores. Where Manuel Vieira, the director of Madeira Film, then they were of the same family, often filmed. Manuel Vieira often filmed in the Azores the landscape, customs, industrial production, and relevant events that took place there. Well, the consultation of Alvorada of New Bedford allows us to verify that many of the silent movies produced by Madeira Film were screened in the USA with live musical accompaniment, as it was usual in the silent film projections, by Portuguese American bands and orchestras, and most likely thanks to the collaboration of the Portuguese film distributor called New Bedford Portuguese Film Company. Alvorada, the newspaper, used to publish some illustrated advertisements giving an account of cinematographic sessions of Madeiran films shown in various cinemas in New England, namely in 1924, and I'm quoting, the films of the 5th centenary of the discovery of the island of Madeira, some scenes of the historical drama de Mar Teixeira brought to the stage on that occasion in Funchal, and the arrival and departure from North America's Madeiran colony tour to Madeira last year, and many other beautiful sights of the island. Information that, on the other hand, is proven by the consultation of the Funchal press, which throughout the 20s also reported not only the departure of the films directed by Manuel Vieira to the United States, and Brazil, but also the enthusiastic reception of these films by the colonies of Portuguese American descent, and later their return to Funchal. Silent cinema thus complemented the informative, pedagogical, and political identity mission that the Portuguese American newspapers assumed, but without requiring a mastery of the Portuguese language that went beyond the mere ability to understand the intertitles, as you will see when I explain the movies. Therefore, it contributed to the strengthening of the community cohesion of the Portuguese colony and to the resumption of effective humanitarian but also commercial and industrial ties with the island of origin. In the latter case, cinema was also registered the now tourist return of Portuguese Americans to Madeira in films that were then returned to the colony in cinematographic exhibitions in the United States, in films that were then returned to the colony in cinematographic exhibitions as if they were collective souvenirs. At the same time, these films stimulated Portuguese American excursions, including that from California, which was then of interest of both sides, not only from an economic point of view, contributing to the development of companies linked to the sector on the islands and in America, but also from a cultural and political identity point of view, by promoting the mutual rediscovery and re-acknowledgement of shared identity heritage. And in fact, there are several and well-attended Portuguese-American excursions to Madeira, some with a strong adhesion of residents in California, and sometimes extending the tourist voyage to the Azores and the mainland, that the Funchal press reported in the 20s, reporting the preparations for the trip still in the United States, highlighting some people who were part of them, and the entities that promoted them, accompanying the tourist itinerary made by visitors on the island, and highlighting the festive and fraternal way in which the island authorities and local population welcomed them. But still going back to the cinema produced in Madeira in the 20s, 1925 seems to have been the year in which Madeira film ceased its activities, for reasons that are still unknown. However, that was also the year in which Manuel Luís Vieira created his own production company, the Empresa Cinegráfica Atlântida, which in the 30s was still active, but then in Lisbon. Empresa Cinegráfica Atlântica, I'm almost finished. Empresa Cinegráfica Atlântida will continue to type the type of cinema produced by Madeira Film, newsreel films, ethnographic documentaries, and tourist and regionalist propaganda films, continuing to film Madeira and also the Azores, and maintaining the connections with the Portuguese colonies in the United States and Brazil, where its films continue to be distributed. However, this new production company introduced a novelty into the emerging Madeiran cinematographic system, the production of fiction films into the emerging films with a notorious artistic investment, conceiving cinema as the new art of the 20th century, for which the other arts, literature, dance, music, the visual arts, would contribute, as we will see in O Fauno das Montanhas, which we will display afterwards. These innovations were obviously the result of Manuel Luís Vieira's creative and technical maturation, who was stimulated by his self-teaching and by his growing contact with both with other Portuguese and foreign filmmakers and technicians, as well as with an increasingly sophisticated international cinematographic culture to which he had access and which was problematizing what cinema was or should be, and experiencing with new ways of understanding and doing it. Thus, in 1925, Manuel Luís Vieira made his first fiction film entitled A Calumnia, a romantic drama with a happy ending, which projected a portrait of modern Funchal, a city with cars and where women began to take some liberties in the face of the ruin of more conservative values, but where misery and social injustice persisted. In addition to this, A Calumnia had, among its protagonists, a man who immigrates to the USA and works there for years, fulfilling the American dream that allows him to return to Madeira and marry his girlfriend, who belongs to a more favored social class. It premiered in Funchal in February 1926. This is not the first exhibition, but it's a program from one of the exhibitions in Funchal. And it is not surprising that in 1927 this film was already being shown in the United States, remaining there, according to the Diário de Notícias of Funchal, not the Bedford one. Diário de Notícias tell us that this film, A Calumnia, was screened in the United States for a year and a half, and it achieved an enormous success in the Portuguese colony. Today, we will be showing two silent films produced by Empresa Cinegráfica Atlântida with the generous collaboration of the Filmar project of the Cinemateca Portuguesa, Museu do Cinema, which is located in Lisbon, which provide us with access to the films, and also with the generous collaboration of the Madeiran project Screenings Funchal, it's a Funchal project, which presented these two films in a cine concert last February, with music created for the purpose by Madeira musicians, and with which today will accompany the silent images of Madeira that Manuel Luís Vieira filmed almost 100 years ago. In the first case, Tosquia de Ovelhas no Pulo da Serra is a film dating from 1937, but with many doubts, since its title is part of the cinematographic repertoire directed by Manuel Luís Vieira since the time of Madeira film. It is a short documentary with an ethnographic theme that, in a careful filmic discourse, and with a cinematographic look particularly sensitive to community rituals, their community rituals, to the human relationship with animals and nature, and to the rushed beauty of the landscape and human faces, registers for coeval and future knowledge and anthropological practice of rural Madeira at the beginning of the 20th century. O Fome das Montanhas, which was filmed in 1926, premiered in Funchal in May 1927, and also circulated in the Portuguese colonies of the American continent in one of the first, and it is one of the first fantastic films, Portuguese fantastic films. The main action of both A Calumnia and O Fome das Montanhas takes place in Madeira, but social realism in the first movie is replaced by the search for fantastic effect in the later one. The purpose is no longer to realistically represent Madeira, but rather to project the island, creating with the viewer the discomfort of excitation about the images that are displayed of it. Do they belong to the domain of the supernatural, the dream, and the imaginary, or on the contrary, do they document a deeper and more disturbing reality which escapes rationality, human control, and a superficial look at the island? More than creating a stable image of the represented world, fantastic cinema sought already at this time to make the public question about what reality was, what power cinema had to tell the complex truth of the world, and after all, what the human limits were to access this truth. In the specific case of the O Fauno das Montanhas, which, as you will see, discreetly leaves many open questions, one of the questions that the film seems to throw at the viewer focused on the supposed paradisiacal character of Madeira, clearly distancing itself from an uncritical regionalist exaltation of the island charms, which would have been dominant in Madeira film's regionalist cinema. O Fauno das Montanhas, resorting to a more elaborated discourse, both from a rhetorical point of view and from a technical artistic point of view, leaves the insinuation that in the shadow of the Madeira's apparent landscape and tourist paradise, there is a hell, social misery and natural hazards not always noticeable. There would be much more to say about the emergence of Madeiran film system in the 20s, which was then very incipient and would soon decline. For the time being, I would just like to underline two conclusion remarks. The emergence of this cinematographic phenomenon in Madeira, still much to be studied and therefore shrouded in many misunderstandings and surprises, was strongly related both to the autonomist regionalist movement and, if opposed, to the Portuguese colonies in America. Without the American distribution of the movies of Madeira Film and Empresa Cinegraphica Atlântida, to which we can perhaps add other Madeiran and Azorian production company awaiting a study, the financial sustainability of these companies would quickly collapse due to the high production costs and the enormous difficulty of inserting their films in the Portuguese and international film distribution circuits. And I leave here an open hypothesis that the collapse of the film system developed autonomously from the two main Portuguese cinematographic centers of the silent film period, Porto and Lisboa, was perhaps neither stranger to the economic and financial crisis that was already taking shape in the USA at the end of the 20s, nor to the totalitarian policies implemented in Portugal with the military coup d'etat of May 28, 1926, and which, after 1933, with the establishment of the Estado Novo, would be even more repressive in relation to many of the autonomist aspirations of the Atlantic Islands. On the other hand, the Portuguese cinema shot in Madeira and Açores, produced in Funchal in the 20s and shown in Portuguese descendant communities of the USA, will certainly have contributed to their cultural dynamism and to the strengthening of the affective and identity ties that they had and wanted to continue to maintain with Portugal, and especially with the two Atlantic archipelagos. Thank you.
So we'll start. We're going to start with the shorter of the two films. You want to tell us a little? Yes, sure.
Dr. Ana, thank you. I'm a member of the seminar. What period do you refer on your presentation? What decades?
The 20s.
I'm sorry?
The 20s.
The 20s. Are you familiar with Vicente Silva?
Yes.
Right. Do you have any idea about what he did or certainly
Yes.
an idea that you know his work?
Yes. Porto Santo.
I wish that would be brought more recently because in the 20s, everybody here, I think that they died already.
Yes,
So,
but it's a period that I'm studying, and very important to see this work because the history of Portuguese cinema excluded completely the work which was done in Madeira during this time. When you read a book about the history of Portuguese film, the silent movie period, they always said that there are two main and unique centers of production, Porto and Lisboa. And the research that I'm doing shows that in Madeira, the connection with the United States, Brazil, and Azores, there were some movements and productions, not only these two producers, there are more, but I didn't study them, and it must be studied, I think so. So that we knew better the Portuguese history, better the Portuguese cinema history.
So you know the recent family in Funchal?
Yes.
Okay. The beautiful museum of
Yes.
at the corner of who they
Yes, exactly.
I think
I live in Madeira for 5 years.
So you know.
I know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's great because, thank you for the question, Joe. It's a good moment to start the screening so that we actually have just watching both short films. Thank you so much for being here today. It's a treat to be able to watch a movie just like someone did 100 years ago, except for the TV.
e lá eram outras coisas. Da Madeira.
There's no sound. That's right. We can't take care of the kids if you need us to take care of them. I'm listening.
In advertising.
It's better than Dutch.
This one
I like ice cream.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a different religion than mine. The more used to feel. The battery fully charged. It's not a soccer game, man. My son. My son, like this to me, he gets Isso já está escrito. Isso é para dar. Maria, mais importante que estou a viver bem. You're ready for talking the whole future.
I'll see the next eclipse.
Yeah, da outra vez vai ser uma banana. That was the good one. Hey, my cousin said in Portuguese, car freshener. Was it Lisa Hay in the review here? He gets a lot of t-shirt. Yeah, we
I tell you, I can falling down. I don't mean like my greatest joy. He's in falling down the stairs. Falling down.
That's a good one. Kind of sort of like
Yeah, we were scared. Were very noisy. As people interact with the images and like you hear them. So it's very good to be here. Thank you. And if you have any questions,
This film was not just a great cinematographic film, but how many of you here remember doing many of the things that just happened there? Like, so they were talking about going to Calheta. That's because there was no other means of transportation in those days. You'd have to go from a boat in Funchal, go all the way to Calheta, where then there was access to this place called Cabassal. And Cabassal is in the middle of the island. So we see these people walking and carrying other people, right? We remember those still, seeing those things happening. The other thing is, I don't know if many of you noticed the levadas, they're the little water level. And you noticed that the walkers, every time they were going somewhere, they were right next to those little channels because it was the only way that they knew where they were going. Okay? And so they went to, you saw that they spoke of a place called Fonte, which is also in Cabassal. But the thing about it, it's actually surrounded by rocks. It's a beautiful place. And there are natural springs coming out of the rocks. And the water is crystal clear, the best water you'll ever drink. But I just wanted to remind you, and going from Calheta to Cabassal is not only in the middle of the island, but it's very steep to get up there. So we see 5 minutes. It probably took these people days to go from Calheta to Cabassal.
How long did you get up there?
Yeah, that's right.
But still.
So, considering when this was actually done, has it been, I don't know if they call it scrub, because it seems so smooth. You know, we see old silent movies here and there's a lot of blinking. And this seems so smooth. Where was it developed, or has it been optimized?
I think film is very could develop very different, like sorry. Eu acho que o filme tem muitas camadas de
Deixa só que ela está
temos o filme, por exemplo, das notícias, da recepção do filme de Funchal, o filme foi recebido em 1927 como um filme de paisagem. Mas o filme tem muitas outras leituras, nomeadamente quando há citação de Dante, quando há referências a, onde aparecem também imagens representativas também do inferno. Portanto, o filme tem muitas leituras. E nesta altura, o Manuel Luís Vieira estava muito em contacto com o cinema impressionista francês, porque havia também uma produtora portuguesa sediada em Paris e em Lisboa, que tinha sócios madeirenses e açorianos também, e ele tinha esses contactos também com a França. Portanto, há muita influência também relativamente ao cinema francês da altura, que era do Eduardo. Em 1928 o filme foi proibido. Perceberam porquê? Porque de facto havia ali imagens que não seriam toleráveis para o Estado Novo, não é? E há uma outra questão que eu acho que é importante, a Zeca referiu muito bem aquilo que o filme nos dá a ver, a forma como se vivia na Madeira naquele período. Eu chamo a atenção também para o facto de o filme ter circulado junto das comunidades madeirenses e açorianas nos Estados Unidos e no Brasil, e provavelmente foi a única forma que certas pessoas que tinham saído das ilhas há muito tempo tiveram de se reencontrar com imagens em movimento, ainda mais, é diferente da fotografia, com esta realidade.
A música foi original?
A música, a Calúnia, outro filme de ação, em parte que ocorre nos Estados Unidos. Portanto, nós temos a partitura, ela está conservada na Cinemateca Portuguesa. Relativamente ao fauno, nós não temos a indicação até agora da música, qual foi a música que acompanhou. A música que vocês tiveram a ouvir, e peço desculpa um pouco de sincronia, foi a música que foi gravada em dia 24 de fevereiro no Funchal, numa exibição, numa sala comercial, com músicos ao vivo, como era próprio o cinema mudo, era quase sempre exibido com uma banda ou uma orquestra a acompanhar. E portanto, estes são músicos madeirenses profissionais, que trabalham na área da música de improviso, e que se juntaram nessa iniciativa. Foi um regresso dos filmes ao Funchal, como agora foi também um regresso dos filmes aos Estados Unidos. De facto, estes filmes estiveram esquecidos durante...
Quanto mais esse filme existe,
Como?
quanto mais esse filme existe,
muitos perderam-se. Costumam dizer que são filmes fantásticos, nós não sabemos da existência deles, o que eles foram, porque há jornais e há registros de memória de pessoas que assistiram aos filmes. Por isso é que é tão importante nós estudarmos os jornais. Eu tenho imensa curiosidade em saber, ter acesso aos jornais dos Estados Unidos para ver se desculpe mais alguma coisa sobre esta cinematografia. Mas há muitos filmes ainda do período mudo que estão, alguns não estão completos, até porque eles eram muitas vezes sujeitos a remontagem, o fauno que nós aqui vimos, provavelmente não terá sido aquele que foi exibido em 1927 no Funchal, até porque ele teve várias remontagens, e era prática corrente. Muitas vezes os filmes eram cortados, eram acrescentados com cenas, como fotogramas referem. Mas a Cinemateca está neste momento, a Cinemateca Portuguesa está neste momento, e no meu PowerPoint, não esqueci de dizer, está neste momento a desenvolver um projeto, que é o projeto Filmar, em que digitalizou, está a construir uma base de dados que está disponível ao público através do site da Cinemateca Portuguesa, onde estão a ser disponibilizados muitos filmes, não só do período mudo, mas também do período posterior, para que as pessoas possam ver esses filmes. Não é? Até agora, em fita, já eram exibidos uma vez de 50 a 50 anos.
Obrigado.
Hoje em dia, eu mostro uma posição no aluno, mas
Se tiverem mais algum comentário, alguma questão.
Com a sua investigação, espero que regresse mais.
Ok, obrigada.
We have lots of food, please, let's go.